Hi everyone, and welcome to the third workshop in our Streamlining Your Career series. My name is Allison Blatz, and I am the Assistant Director of Student Engagement here at the Rose Hill Career Center. And today I'm super excited to talk with you all about the topic of overcoming indecisiveness and career confusion. As someone who graduated from Fordham myself as an undergraduate with degrees in English and French, ended up transitioning into tech and pharmaceutical recruiting, and then came back to Fordham to work in student engagement and pursue my master's in social work. I'm someone who is definitely understands career confusion and has been stuck in indecisiveness before. And I want to, as career counselors here, we see a ton of examples of indecisiveness amongst our student body. Students are indecisive regarding what major they should pursue. They're indecisive regarding what type of internships or jobs they should be applying for. They're indecisive of whether or not they should pursue graduate school or pursue full-time work after graduation. And I want to kind of preface this workshop with saying that it's completely okay to be in a temporary state of uncertainty and unsureness. That is not the problem that we're addressing here in this workshop today. It's kind of when we spiral down in that whirlpool of indecisiveness, and get out, are stuck in the fear of making the wrong decision. That is a problem we're going to be addressing. So I'm really excited to talk about this topic with you all today. We have a sign-up form in the comment section. You could also feel free to ask any questions that you'd like in the comment section that come up during this video or during this workshop, and I'll be answering them afterwards. But make sure that you definitely put your email in that sign-up sheet, and we're going to get rolling. Perfect. Okay, so in order to understand how to overcome indecisiveness, we first need to understand what fuels it, right? So generally, the path of indecisiveness follows three main stages. And actually, these stages are something that I found in a really great article by Forbes called The Torturous Path of Self-Doubt, How Indecisiveness Kills Dreams. I have it hyperlinked at the bottom of the PowerPoint. I know you all can't access the hyperlink right now. However, you have the title if you'd like to explore these or explore these stages in greater detail after this workshop. But the first stage in the path of indecisiveness is a fear of failure, right? So when making decisions, we often will postpone making a decision out of the fear that we're going to make the wrong decision or the detrimental decision. And oftentimes, what we define as wrong or detrimental is based on messaging that we've absorbed from our environment growing up, right? From our parents, from our peers, from our mentors, or even from society as a whole. And as an example of a fear of failure that sometimes we see here at the Career Center, we'll have a student who comes in, for example, and let's say they want to major in anthropology, right? But they come in and they say, I really want to major in this thing, but I have a fear that this degree is economically irrelevant. I fear that this degree is too competitive. I fear that I'll never have the breadth and diversity of experiences under my belt in order to thrive in this field. And all of those questions are relevant questions to ask yourself when you're looking to declare a major. But the problem with focusing on these questions is that often there are questions that we've absorbed from our environment again, and they're also questions that focus on what can go wrong. What can go wrong? And at the end of the day, what you focus on grows. So when you focus on a fear of failure or the negative, it's never a good way to start. So that is the first stage in the path of indecisiveness. The second stage in the path of indecisiveness is paralysis by analysis. So when we are plagued by a fear of failure, we get ourselves into a state of paralysis by analysis, and we become apprehensive. And apprehensiveness leads us to oversaturate ourselves with information and overanalyze every single option available to us. So we often see paralysis by analysis in action here at the Career Center when students come in and they're about to dive into the internship and job search. So we'll have a student who says, I'm super interested in X, Y, or Z opportunity, but I'm not going to pursue that opportunity because I'm a sophomore and I don't have enough experience, because I checked out the company website and I don't think that they would be interested in my major, because I don't know how to approach interviewing and what happens when I get to that step in the process. Basically, students will come in and they'll automatically disqualify themselves for the experience, even though they haven't even gotten there yet. And so even that when you go to apply for that position, right, you've already disqualified yourself, and therefore you're setting yourself up with a negative disposition, which is never a way to go into anything. So following the second stage of paralysis by analysis, we also have experiencing guilt and shame as a result of inauthenticity, right? So when we prioritize a fear of failure or other people's judgments or expectations of what our decisions will be, and we don't end up pursuing what, really brings us interest and curiosity, we end up stuck in a feeling of all of the what ifs, right? What if I did pursue that opportunity and it was successful? What if that opportunity would have been a great step, a great first step in the door in this industry? What if I could have activated some great latent potential that I'm not currently cognizant of by going into this, right? When we basically deprive ourselves of the opportunity to begin something, we also deprive ourselves of the opportunity for success and growth. So when we're stuck in indecisiveness, right, we obviously want to figure out how do we get to being decisive, right? What is the bridge between indecisiveness and decisiveness? So what fuels decision-making? Very much like the path of indecisiveness, the path of decision-making follows also three main stages. And the first is motivation. So when we gain motivation and act from a place of motivation, we make a conscious choice to act on what we're curious about or interested in despite our fear of failure. So when we have the courage to explore what is authentic to us, we're able to define our mission or our higher purpose and our vision, so our specific goals. So for example, let's say that we have a student who wants to pursue a job in the publishing industry. And this is something that comes to mind because as an English major, I get a lot of students who come to me with English and journalism degrees and really want to go into that space. So in the past, maybe this student who is interested in pursuing the publishing industry might have said, you know what, I'm prioritizing a fear of failure. I think that this industry is too competitive. It's out of my league. I won't make any money of it, right? And all of those questions that we kind of covered before. But when they have the motivation to pursue a job in the publishing world because they know that that aligns with who they are, they're able to define their mission, so their higher purpose of being a writer, and their vision. So the specific goals that'll take them, kind of get them there. Maybe that'll be drafting application materials that are tailored to the publishing world, networking with people in the publishing world, etc. Once you have the motivation, then you can gain relevant information. So when we're driven by fear, information becomes the reason not to act. But when we're driven by a clear mission and vision or motivation, information becomes a tool to act intelligently. So going back to the same example with that student who's interested in a job in the publishing industry, they may say to themselves, okay, I know that I'm going to need these types of experiences under my belt in order to get foot in the door in this industry. I know that it would be beneficial to connect with these types of people. And I know that I'm going to likely make X figure in an entry-level role outside of college, or I may need to pursue X degree of higher education in order to thrive in this field. So people who are fueled by motivation and they know what their mission and vision is in life, these questions are questions that they're ready to take on despite the consequence, rather than use as an excuse to not move forward in making a decision. Which finally brings us to the last stage in the path of decision-making, which is responsibility. So responsibility is the ability to accept and learn from both achievement and failure in order to continue to improve and grow. So maybe that student in the publishing industry will go for an extended period of time after graduating without a job. Or maybe they won't land in their dream company right outside of graduation. But someone who is committed to their mission and vision and knows that this is in alignment with who they are and what their strengths are and their talents are, is going to say, okay, these are the natural consequences. I'm excited to take them on, and I'm able to see them as a learning and growing experience rather than as a form of punishment. So when we're kind of bridging the gap between indecisiveness and decisiveness, really what that gap is there is knowing who you are and knowing what your values are more specifically. Which kind of brings us into determining your career values. So what are your career values? Your career values are personal principles that help define your ideal professional environment. And they are determined by a combination of your core skill set, which are your intrinsic strengths, and your core motivators, which are your extrinsic values. And we're going to dive right into them in the following slide here. So we have 10 core skill sets or intrinsic strengths, listed here. And basically what a core skill set is, all of us have deep foundational primary skill sets which are basically an attribute that if we didn't use that attribute throughout the day, we would be left feeling off, right? Not ourselves. I work in student engagement. If I was not socializing and interacting with students on a daily basis, I would feel off. That would not be in the nature of my job, right? And so there's a very well-known career coach and author named Ashley Stahl, and she was able to actually identify 10 core skill sets that play out in the workplace. And actually, she talks about this in a LinkedIn Learning session. So to anyone who does not know, you all have access to LinkedIn Learning via Handshake, but also via your Fordham My Apps page. And you could actually watch that video with her. I have it linked down below here. Find your perfect career fit if you want to learn more about these outside of this presentation. So they're pretty self-explanatory, as you can see by the words, but we're still going to dive right in just to give you a better idea. So the first core skill set we have here is innovation. And innovation refers generally to people who like to build transformative new things, right? So think of entrepreneurs, people who like to have the autonomy to build something new, or intrapreneurs, people who like to content build on somebody else's vision. The next core skill set we have here is building. So people who view the world through the lens of building. So this can be physical building, right, like a construction worker. It could also be more metaphorical building, so someone who builds or develops programs and code, for example. Words, pretty self-explanatory. People who are, very strong in written and verbal communication. You could think public speakers, content strategists, writers, editors, etc. Motion refers to people who really have to have physical movement as a part of their daily jobs. So this could be people like athletes, obviously, but it could also include tour guides, flight attendants, physical therapists, etc. It's someone who can't be confined to a desk in a 9-to-5, traditional space. The next core skill set is service. Service is basically for people who lead with the intent of helping others. Roles that would probably suit someone with this skill set include counselors, social workers, teachers, etc. Coordination generally centers on handling details both big and small and executing those things. So think office or project managers, event planners. I speak to a ton of students who do coordination when they're in a club leadership position. So if you're currently in that position and you're liking it, coordination is probably a core skill set for you. Analysis generally refers to people who enjoy dissecting and analyzing information and answering questions in order to achieve an outcome. So think people in our society like our doctors, our lawyers, intelligence analysts, researchers, etc. Numbers in technology are pretty obvious, right? So numbers, people who really like numbers are good with money, bankers, accountants. Technology, people who like to fix and tinker with technology. And then finally, we get to beauty. So this is a core skill set for those who kind of want to make art out of the world around them and express themselves. So our artists, photographers, etc. in the world. And generally, when people look at these 10 core skill sets, they'll probably identify with like 3 or 4, right? I know that when I was an undergraduate student, I probably would have said that words, service, and then analysis and coordination were my primary skill sets. But really what's important is figuring out what your main number one priority skill set is. So when I was an undergraduate student, the reason why I pursued French and English as my degrees is because I really thought and was convinced and honestly accepted advice from other people that words was my key strength. But as a result of time and experience, I've learned that service is my key strength, which has been really telling and making an informed decision about how I move forward with my career choices from here. So then the question is, okay, we know what the 10 core skill sets are. How do I figure out what my primary skill set is? So in order to identify your core skill set, you're really going to want to reflect on your past experiences. And this could be any past experience. It could be an internship, a volunteer experience, a club experience. And when you're looking at that experience, you want to be 100% honest with yourself about how you participated and how you felt afterwards, right? So within an internship, what did you find fulfilling about that role, right? What filled you with rigor and robustness, and what made you really excited to go to work the next day? But then on the flip side, also we have to ask ourselves, what do we know that we wish we didn't know about that experience? We all can think back to a job or an experience where maybe we put something under the rug because we didn't want to know the truth of something that probably wasn't our strength or wasn't really a fit for us. But being able to answer that question is a great way in order to discover your primary skill set. You also are going to want to consult a trusted mentor, family, or friends for feedback in identifying your core skill set. And this may seem a little bit contradictory to what I mentioned before in terms of, not listening to expectations and judgments of others. You want to keep in mind the potential biases in mind of the people you talk with. Obviously, your parents or your professors are going to have a certain opinion about what path that you should pursue. But in addition to what they would like your primary strengths to be, people who know you inside out are also going to know all of the other strengths that you hold as well, and will be able to tell you what those strengths are. So in addition to consulting a mentor, family, or friends, you also want to rely on your Fordham community. So the way that you could do this is you could set up an appointment with one of our career counselors here on Handshake. So if you went to Handshake, went to the Career Center tab on the left-hand side and clicked Appointments, you would see all of our counselors' availability. And as you could see, you could choose a category. So I would suggest for, figuring out your career values, career guidance would be a good one. And we all here serve as career counselors, every member of the Career Center staff. And obviously when you're looking for someone for an appointment, you're just going to see their name and a brief description. If you feel like you really want to meet the person in person, stop by. We have busy schedules. However, if we're in between a meeting or just in our office, we're happy to meet with you beforehand, so you can see if there's a connection, and then you can make an appointment with us. So that is Handshake. But then there's also this beautiful resource called the Fordham Mentorship Network, which I'm going to see if I could click on right now to bring you to. Okay, perfect. Apologies, folks. I'm not the best with technology, but it seems that you are seeing my screen right now with the Fordham Mentorship Network. So for the Fordham Mentorship Network, and let's get back here. Basically, the Fordham Mentorship Network, you would sign up with your Fordham email. You can indicate your topics of interest, your industries of interest. And if you go to connect up here, you'll see community. And basically, the Fordham Mentorship Network is a place where you could find a virtual network of all of our alum who have, opted in to participate in this. So let's say that you recently declared a major in accounting, and you want to explore what different career paths you have, right? You don't want to get stuck in a place of indecisiveness. You want to explore your options. So you could filter this in a few different ways, right? You could filter by industry. You could filter by major, which is what we're going to do now for the sake of an example. Oh, and accounting is the first one that comes up. Beautiful. So we're going to click on that, click apply. And you're going to see all of our alum who majored in accounting, and you could see what they do, right? And you could see also what they're willing to help with, right? So if they're willing to give you advice on resumes or CVs, or how to work with others, or how to figure out a career path, those are all things that are present here. But let's say we scroll down, and you're someone who says, okay, I've looked through all of these profiles, and with accounting, maybe I'm interested in going into audit and compliance. So we could click on Chris's profile here. Once you click on Chris's profile, you could see his industries of interest, his topics of interest. You could see all of the experiences he's had thus far. And maybe you want to message Chris. And you could say something along the lines of, hi, Chris, it's great to connect with a fellow RAM. I'm currently a sophomore in the Gabelli School of Business pursuing a degree in accounting. I saw that you currently, or that you majored in accounting while you were here at Fordham, and that you currently work in the audit and compliance space. I'm really interested, or I think I'm interested in entering that space. Would you be free to, hop on a quick 10 to 15 minute call to talk about your career experiences, your career trajectory, and to give me some advice on how I could get my foot in the door in this industry? Speaking to other people and networking is a great way to figure out what your core skill sets are. It's one thing to kind of think about this in your head internally, but at the end of the day, talking with people about your vision and building it out is the way you're going to find it. So that is the beauty of the Fordham Mentorship Network. Let's see. Ooh. And I'm just going to quickly adjust this. Or maybe not. Okay. Hopefully you all can still see my screen. But in addition to the 10 core skill sets, 10 core skill sets, we also have our 10 core motivators. So these are our extrinsic values, right? And our extrinsic values are basically, what do we value lifestyle-wise, right, in the future? So we have 10, again, this is also from the same career coach, Ashley Stahl, and the core skill sets and the core motivators kind of go hand in hand. So first of all, here we have meaning. So meaning refers to doing work that aligns with a spiritual or higher purpose. And that goes very much hand in hand with impact. So that's work that you do that you know is changing the world or making a difference, or where you're directly serving the community that you're in service to. So that's meaning and impact. Optimal health refers to work that supports your health or physical wellness. So people who tend to kind of lean towards a path of optimal health, again, are people who don't like to be confined to the typical 9-to-5 work schedule. Time is work that allows you the time, freedom, or flexibility to do what you want, right? So these are probably jobs that you don't have to commit a weekend or working after hours or etc. It allows you the flexibility and adaptability to have time outside of work. Visibility is work that grants you prestige or recognition by others. So think of something like the president, right? That type of work environment is something that allows you prestige or visibility. Next, we have accomplishment, which I apologize, could not fit in this circle. But accomplishment refers to work that grants you a sense of completion. So a work environment that allows you to take on multiple projects, complete them, and to have kind of an award, a reward at the end. Training refers to work that allows growth, learning, and expansion. So think of a work environment where maybe they'll pay for you to get a certification or pay for you to get a higher degree, or maybe they just have weekly corporate lunch and learns where you can learn something new about the industry. So this is a work environment where you're continuously in a space of learning and growth. Ease is one that's very interesting, and I feel like ease and visibility tend to get a lot of flack for reasons that I don't understand. But ease is work that really allows you to stay in your comfort zone. And perhaps it's because we have a cultural value of, pushing ourselves out of our comfort zone, that we don't really value this value for what it is. But people who really prioritize ease as a work style, they like to work in an environment where they're comfortable, where there aren't many challenges for them, where they're just happy to go in their job, do their job, and leave. The day just is what it is, and there doesn't have to be any, anxiety or pain associated with the work. Another core motivator is spending. So this is work that supports you in making, saving, or keeping money. So this is a very salary-centric job. And then the final one is self-expression, which really relates to our core skill set of beauty. And this is work that grants you the freedom to channel your emotions and ideas and bring them to life. And the way that you could kind of figure out your 10 core motivator, or what core motivator aligns for you, is really looking within and thinking about what you'd like your future to look like. So I know when you're an undergraduate student, it's really difficult to think about what life will be like post-graduation, right? Where you want to live, what house you want to live in, what kind of house you want to live in. Do you want a family? How do you want to support that family, right? These are big questions in addition to the big questions you're already dealing with in college. But you really need to think about what that vision is so that you know what's needed to support that vision. And there are quite a few questions, and I put just a few of them here. But what I would do is I would definitely look up on Google when you have a free time after this presentation, like, what are questions that can help me determine my career values? And some of these come up. So for example, we have the first question here. How important is my salary for my professional fulfillment? Am I willing to trade less work-life balance for more money, and vice versa? So depending on your answer to this question, this may indicate whether or not you prioritize spending as a core motivator, right? Do I want a job in an organization that will allow me to climb the corporate ladder? This may indicate whether or not you prioritize visibility or an accomplishment in your work environment. How can I make sure that I'm always learning something new? If this is a question that resonates with you or you prioritize, something like training is probably a good core motivator for you. So I would definitely look through these questions and find what resonates with you, and those will help you figure out what your core motivators are. So overall, career values are really a marriage between your core skill set and your core motivators. And recognizing what your core skill set and core motivators are is both an independent and collective practice. At the Career Center, we obviously want to support you in realizing what these skill sets and motivators are for you, which again, you could do through making an appointment with us or coming to our events. But at the end of the day, it's crucial that you also do the independent work, the reflection, the networking, the asking around while also asking within to figure out what these are. And once you have a firm grasp of what your career values are, the benefits are endless. So usually you're able to manage expectations better when you're on the internship or job search, when you know what's in alignment with you. You're able to find, when you do find an opportunity, you find that you're staying within that opportunity longer than if you're going into a job that's misaligned with your skill set or core motivators. And in general with your work, you'll approach things with more positivity and adaptability. But I also want to say, because I'm sure, there's potentially some of you are feeling a lot of pressure thinking about how do I really determine these core skill sets and core motivators right now if I'm in a space where I need to do that. Don't be afraid if it takes a while to figure these things out. A lot of the times, like I said with my own experience, figuring out your core skill set and core motivators comes from just going out, doing the thing, seeing that it fails, and trying it again. So don't be afraid to try new things. Don't be afraid to explore new things. That's what you're here in college to do. But know that we're here to support you in kind of going through that process. And I'm going to return to my screen here. I'm happy to answer any questions you all have regarding career values, regarding your core skill set, regarding the path of indecisiveness and decision making. I have our trusty coordinator, marketing coordinator, Tony Marie, over here managing the chat box. So Tony, if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them now.
No questions yet, but we'll give it a minute.
Okay, perfect. We could definitely give it a minute. I'm very open to questions, so please feel free to ask. In the meantime, I will put up here our email. Or maybe not. Let me see. Again, on me not knowing, because technology is not one of my core skill sets, I'm having a bit of difficulty pulling up our graphics here. But please know that, again, you could find us on Handshake. You could also find us, if you look up Fordham Career Center blog, you could find our blog. That's where we keep all of our upcoming events and descriptions of our events. So we'd love to see you there and, via Handshake as well.
One person asked, do you think that it is unrealistic to think that you can fulfill all 10 core motivators?
Do I think it's unrealistic to think that it is possible to fulfill all 10 core motivators? Mm-hmm. That's a great question. I can't give you a definite answer for that. However, what I will say is that there are some conflicting things with some of the core motivators. So, for example, if we go back and think about spending and time, or spending and optimum health, or visibility, right? Generally, jobs that allot you visibility or accomplishments are jobs where you're going to have to really dedicate a lot of time to that, where you're going to want to spend this extra hours at work, or maybe take some things home on the weekend. And some people are very open and willing to do that. But then that kind of conflicts with your value of time, right? If I value flexibility, that's not really giving me flexibility. That could also interfere with optimal health. So if you're someone who likes to kind of be out and about, but then you're confined to a desk to work on these projects, I think that there's a lot of conflict between them. I think that there are a few that can work in harmony, but I think it also depends on the ones that you're considering exactly. So if you want to write those in the chat box, that'd be great. But that would be my general answer to that. I'm just going to wait and see if there are any more questions from you all. But I would definitely recommend the 2 resources that I put in this presentation. And again, you'll be able to access this presentation anytime via YouTube. Definitely look up that article and definitely look up the video with Ashley Stahl on LinkedIn Learning. It was very helpful for me in figuring out my core skill sets and motivators and overcoming indecisiveness. It was very helpful for me in creating this presentation for you all. But I think if you have time to sit with it on your own time, it could be beneficial for you too.
2 more questions.
Two more questions.
One is not from the chat, one is.
Okay.
So we'll start with the one that's not from the chat first.
Okay.
That one is, how can students help figure out lifestyle considerations if they're not really sure how to discover that? Like, what are some discovery processes for that genre?
That is a great question. So as an undergraduate student, how do you think of lifestyle choices when you're not really there yet? This may be a very uncomfortable and unrelieving answer. However, you kind of just have to make your best guesstimation. The core motivators that I thought I had when I was an undergraduate are completely different than what I have now. And it really is a matter of trial and error. So you kind of have to make this goes for any decision in life. You have to make your best choice with the judgment and the perspective that you have now, and just know that that can shift over time and be open to that shifting over time. And that's a part of actually the responsibility aspect of the path of decision making that we meant before, right? You have to be willing to accept the fact that you may be wrong about a core motivator that you thought was valuable to you, and be able to just, very, very swiftly and thoughtfully shift gears if you need to, with the support of the Fordham community, of course.
And your next question is, can these core motivators apply to choosing a major as well?
Oh, okay, that's a good question. Can core motivators apply to choosing a major as well? Yes, I think that's a little bit more difficult, because what you all can do with your majors, you could really do, I don't want to make a broad sweeping statement like this, but you could really do anything with any major, right? Because every major that you gain here is going to equip you with transferable skills that can be used within any field or industry. I would say that let me go back to my core motivators actually here. That is a very thoughtful question, and I like it a lot. I think that when you're choosing a major, you should really focus first on what your core skill set is in choosing that major, and have the core motivators would probably follow after that. But I think when you're at a point, I'm going to assume you're a freshman or sophomore where you're choosing a major, keep the core skill sets as your primary focus, and the core motivators will kind of fall into pieces from there. Because generally when you're in alignment with your intrinsic strengths, they are typically in line with the extrinsic values as well. I hope that makes sense. But I would like to talk about this question further with whoever asked it. So if you want to put your email in the chat, I'd be happy to speak about this with you further. Are there any other questions?
No further questions at this time. So if you want to do a final call for questions?
Sure.
Give it another minute.
Yeah, I think we'll give it another minute for question. I'm going to, give a final call for questions. I will also say my email here. I know that there were quite a few people who emailed saying they couldn't come to this presentation, but they really wanted to. So if any of you want to email me, set up an appointment with me, or talk about this topic further, again, my name is Allison Blatz, and my email is ablatz, like in zebra, at fordham.edu. And I'd be happy to kind of dive into this topic. It's difficult to kind of talk about these things when it's not specific to a student and a major or an opportunity that they're kind of in question about. But I'd be happy to dive into these topics further with you all on an individual basis. And if we have, awesome. All right, if we have no other questions, I am going to officially exit out and end the broadcast. But it's been great having you all here today. Thank you so much for your attention and patience with some of the technology things we have going on here. And we look forward to seeing you at our workshop next week, which is on growing your network. So we will see you there, and we hope you have a great weekend.